right, friend, welcome back. So here we are in our final channel of the circuitry. So if you notice, what I did is I moved you from the root center, and then we went up to the throat on from the 41, 30, 36, 35, and then the 53, 42, 29, 46, 13, 33. And then we popped up to the head center because we are living in this pressure sandwich. So the head center down to the ajna, down to the throat. And yes, when it's the individual energy, this energy it's malleable. It moves, it'll move from the 56 to the 11, 56. It moves back and forth. However, the natural flow of this is to go from a pressure center and move to manifestation and communication. And 90,000 plus years ago, the larynx dropped in the 12th gate, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here, and then we'll go over it when we go over the 12th gate. But that dropping of the larynx allowed for us to then have this particular communication skill. And why do I bring up the 12th gate? Well, the 12th gate and the 11th gate are oppositions in the wheel, and we always look at the opposition as well. We can always, I'm not doing that in every one of these gates or traits, but we can look across the wheel and look at the opposition. This isn't about the full channel. This is about what's on the opposite side of the wheel to bring us the mirror image of what is happening. So that larynx is very important for us to then be able to communicate. So everything is moving to the throat center. So here in the 1156, we are talking about the channel of a curiosity. So the channel of curiosity is the design of the seeker. So the whole thing about understanding projected intelligence is that, it is only intelligent when it's asked. Because anytime you have a projected channel, and we talked about this when we were doing the 64-47, intelligence in the mind, if we're trying to use that intelligence to figure out our own lives, it is completely futile. Completely futile. However, if somebody invites and recognizes our intellectual energy, and they ask us for us and they initiate it, then that's when intelligence actually shows up. However, if we try to initiate our intelligence, there is definitely going to be suffering, because we are, expending all this energy, we're talking about it, blah, blah, blah. Nothing's happening, nothing's going on, nobody's hearing you. So it's that recognition and invitation that's important for this channel, and important as well for the 64-47 and any of the projected channels, but especially in the mind, because the mental plane, because we are able to communicate, we're frickin' noisy. We have so much noise going on this planet. And what human design is saying is, let's relax into the correctness of who we are and watch the noise factor go down. So again, this is about collective. It's about sharing. There's sensing here. It's about past. It's visual. And this is the left eye. Okay, this is the left eye, and we're going to talk about that when we hit the 11. So the search is not about finding ever. In the abstract circuitry, we are strictly just, being in the experience and searching. Period. There's no need for, there's nothing to find, because there's always progress taking place. So the flow of the abstract stream of mental activity, potential clarity is what drives the search and drives the curiosity. So the abstract stores and regurgitates the past. This gives us a foundation, hence the reason the abstract process is always searching for the origination of humans, and is curious about the consciousness field. Like, we are constantly searching. And here's what's really fun in the quantum physics realm. The more we look, the more we find. It's the observer effect. So, when we started, investigating into the body and looking for the cell, and then all of a sudden we saw the cell wall, and then we saw the nucleus, and then we saw the electrons, and we saw the protons, and we begin to, bring this all down. And now they talk about nanoparticles because they're so minuscule, but they're there. But the more we look, the more we are going to find. So the abstract mind distills experience. The mental activity leads to clarity, and yet it is not a certainty that drives curiosity for the absolute. The channel wants to organize the facts just like the 1762, but it can't. This is the abstract process. So even though, we're coming out of this very strategic seven-centered being who wants to have facts, who wants to organize, who wants to have the details, the abstract side is not built for that. So it can only share the interpretation of history. That is what the 1156 does. The 1762, it is completely designed to give the facts and the data, but the 1156 is just the interpretation. So, this is teaching about experience rather than creating experience. So the mental process is not about accomplishment, but about the expression of what can be taught. So when we look through the body graph aspect of this, and we look at, the 41, 30, 36, 35, the 53, 42, 29, 46, and then the 13, 33, that was about accomplishment. We wanted to accomplish something in the experience. But the mental process isn't accomplishing anything. The mental process is about teaching it, is about, speaking it, is about expressing it after it's decoded the experience. So the stories spoken and expressed are not a guide for one's own life. They share the experience or accomplishment with the other through the story. This is the collection of consciousness, the collecting of memory. So you are compelled to continually seek mental stimulation, to explore new ideas and ways of seeing the world around you. You are not setting out to find something specific, but rather sharing it. Look at what I have discovered. So your creativity and style of presentation become magical when you weave together ideas and stories based on the philosophical reflections about what it means to be a human being experiencing life. You have an inviolable gift of taking abstract ideas and fashioning a story out of them that can teach and entertain an audience. Your capacity to believe in something makes it true for you, and you are less interested in facts than in how the stories can share your experiential view of life. Very story-oriented. So what does the 11 do? The 11 is actually the great teacher, okay? Especially the 11.4. This is, this philanthropic teacher of life. So the teacher, the sage, the guru, this is all possible because of that opposite gate that I spoke about in the 12th. This is where the larynx dropped for communication to happen. Communication is the gateway for a mental process to articulate. So ideas are not a solution, they are a journey. Ideas are transitory, just like everything in this circuitry. There is a movement. It's walking through the experience. That's all it wants to do. So you are someone filled with ideas, concepts, and possibilities that you conceptualize, ultimately share, and then stimulate others. The key is waiting for the invitation to share your ideas. Again, we are in projected energy here. So you need peaceful and quiet moments of assessment to sort out what you remember from the ups and downs of your experiences. You are prone to remembering what you really liked about what you witnessed while leaving the rest out. This is how your ideas become ideals and then beliefs, and finally, over time, belief systems. You also seek the ideas of others to stimulate your own reflections and not but not indiscriminately. Attempting to bring your own ideas into manifestation rather than simply reflecting on them will lead to frustration, crisis, and confusion. So let's take a look at the 11. It's a harmonic condition in the individual or society that permits assessment before renewed action. So always, what the abstract side is saying is this: before you start something new, before you have a renewed action, we must assess what we just walked through. The right angle cross of Eden, you hold a memory that love is the base of our existence, and do not let the less than perfect life or harsh reality of this world pull you off this love. The juxtaposition of ideas, you're a natural teacher, and you articulate the profound body and self-connection. Then there is the left angle cross of education. So this is a love to educate. It's about, your own experiences so that you can then educate them. So let's look at the very, very core foundational understanding of this. It's attunement. So the serendipity of being in the right place at the right time. Now, where have we seen that before? We've actually seen serendipity, being in the right place at the right time, in the 46. So the experiential way is so greatly indicating to us, be present in your body. So the nourishment derived from being with those who share the same goals and aspirations. The gift of finding those who will value your ideas. Now, here all of a sudden the word goals come in again, and goals are actually not a part of the abstract side. But when we sit with people in a group and we share these same goals and aspirations, all of a sudden we can attune ourselves to the serendipity of being in the right place at the right time. So those ideas that we have can then be, recognized and invited out of us. So the fear of anonymity, the sense that no one will value their ideas. Now let's go to, the second. This is the natural, the natural piece of this whole hexagram. The recognition that without vigilance and risk, peace can lead to stagnation and collapse. So the imagination applied to ensuring the understanding of achieved values, a sense of boredom overcome through the imagination. So understanding this recognition that we are bringing the 41st gate in here, imagination. We have to have this imagination, this hunger, and then all of a sudden we can achieve our values based off of the movement, the natural movement of the body. So knowing that stagnation and collapse is not good for the human experiential way. So the resorting of factionalism to satisfy the ego's need for action, provoking with ideas to escape boredom. So here is what is so important, is that again, all of a sudden the 11th gate wants to default to being a very strategic logical aspect when we see the challenging piece of this here. All of a sudden it wants facts. Very interesting, right? So, watch how these all play out. If you have this, watch how it plays out in your life. And then the third, this is our trial and error. This is realism, right? The acknowledgement that peace is transitory. This is what's real. 5 minutes ago is not now. We're constantly walking this little path, and it's about coming to that ability to see. We need to be able to see. Again, this is the left eye. This is all about seeing things in a wave pattern. And I apologize, I thought I had more information in here than I do, and I don't. So I apologize for that. So the 11th gate is all about seeing things through the left eye. And we see it in waves. the left eye sees life in waves because it's feeding the right brain. It's feeding that abstract brain. So, the internal renewal to maintain strength and alertness, the realization that ideas come and go. The abstract is ebb and flowing. So the realist knows that, we're constantly in this transitory movement. The tendency to appreciate harmony to the point of delusion. The belief that beauty is eternal and fiddling while Rome burns, a pleasure in ideas that have no real application. There's lots of ideas that get thrown out that will never ever be applied in this world. And yet what's important here is to wait for that invitation so that those can be expressed either way, whether they're going to be utilized or not. And sorry, I said the 11.4 was the philanthropist. It's actually the teacher. My apologies for that. So this is the teacher. This is, the ability. This is how we are externalizing. So the 11th gate in our minds that sits in the ajna center is now externalizing. It's teaching. It is the ability to express essential nature of peace. So this is the sage that is the extreme, can teach harmony to the tone deaf. Venus is also exalted, so the ability to reach out and attract the alienated. Concepts which are clear and transferable, ideas which can attract and inform the uneducated, and again, needs to be invited. There's this natural ability for this particular energy to teach, to be that guru. The guru whose most valued wisdom is intentionally limited to a few ideas which can only be grasped by a few. Now, I look at this and I know that this is, a challenging piece of this, but I also look at the fractal explanation in the human design system. And again, once we get into, the deeper levels of human design, as you walk through this self-mastery, what you're going to recognize is that we all have our own fractal. And this fractal, we can only teach so many people. We can only, express this natural peace to so many people that can hear us. So the philanthropist here, this fifth line, this is, the highest echelon of the hexagram, the motiveless nurturing of the disenfranchised to ensure harmony, philosophic and humanitarian ideas. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of my biased view here. And it really is like, pay attention to who we call philanthropic on this planet. Let's just say it like that. Anyone that is not teaching you that the miracles inside your physical body and your ability to stay healthy, to stay safe, to have, autonomous experiences, to be in your individuality, if that isn't being taught, then there is no philanthropic expression there. The miracle of what is happening with your body, with your mind, and with your ability to have a pure connection with Source, those are the teachers that teach you how to be harmonic with nature, allow for the nourishment of the body to be correct for you, not trying to fit you into whatever diet, the keto diet, or, being a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever it is. It's about honoring the fact that we are all different and that there is a guideline, and that guideline is the decision making. Because the physical body knows how to be healthy. And if we let it make decisions, then all of a sudden the clarity of our experience is nothing but profound. So the challenging piece here, the withdrawal from direct contact, where giving is a form of defense, giving away ideas out of a sense of insecurity. Now, we're out on the horizon, we're looking out, and it's about adaptability. The inner balance to accept transition. The innate awareness that all forms are transitory. The realization that ideas lead to change and are changeable is what that should say, not chargeable, changeable. The adaptability in its most negative manifestation. The spectacular, or the speculator who profits at the expense of others in time of peace and war. The realization of what idea is of value in any situation. So this is kind of what I was getting at. We have these philanthropic, people that are self-expressed philanthropic people who literally profited at the expense of others. Now, capitalism isn't a bad thing. Capitalism allows society to be healthy. However, when it is at the expense of other people to pad and line the pockets, and then come out and indicate that there's philanthropic humanitarian ideas, and it's not for the betterment, it's actually, again, just to line the pockets. Those are the things we have to be aware of, because our world is operating in that duality. So again, this is the left eye. I apologize, I didn't put that in here. And the left eye is seeing the world through the ebb and flow, through the waves, through the cycles. So there is a movement. So, if you want something in the now, look at it through your right eye. If you want something to be able to process in the mental plane for a while and come to its correct timing and come to clarity, that's through the left eye. Now, we have both, not everybody, but, the eyes are seeing this simultaneously and processing it. The brain is processing it in two totally different ways. One side is over time, the other side is in the now. So then we have the 56, the gate of stimulation, the wanderer. So here we get to the voice of the storyteller of that experience. So the sequences are translated into story. Exaggeration happens here, so the story can be brought to life. And as I had said in the 33 is the period. The 33 takes the experience, period, and it retreats with it. Now what it does is now the mental aspect can then communicate it, and it communicates it with punctuation. So, it's like, see how this idea stimulates you on your journey? Exclamation point. So the quality of this voice is hope and despair. It says, I believe or I don't believe. It's in the abstract circuitry that runs through the emotional center. So storytellers can be both comedians and they can be full of drama. I have this 56 gate. Ask my husband. I waver between both of these, and I hear myself say, well, I believe this or I don't believe that, or I don't know what to believe. I don't know if I'm a great storyteller or not. However, it is fun to be able to watch how this shows up in the world. And then the part of this that I love is that this gate is there to get people to see an idea. So my husband has the 11th gate, and it's amazing to me how this shows up for me, because when he is in my auric field, and him and I are kind of, let's, for lack of a better word, brainstorming about things. I know that the visualization and the ideas are being brought to me through his mechanism. And then I verbalize it so that he can see the idea. And I talk about ideas all the time. Him and I, we have this cattle ranch, so we're constantly building and moving and making and creating and all of this stuff. And it's through his mechanism that the idea shows up for me, and then I can then get him to see that idea. So it is only stimulating when you can get the other to see it. They draw from the past experiences and share them in story form. So this stimulates the other. The risk is that the moment you identify with believing, you are going to have to identify with the crisis that's going to go along with it. And again, why do we say this? Because believing is transitory. We already talked about this in the 3635. So as a natural storyteller, you use your own past experiences in order to illustrate your concepts and to stimulate others. Your stories are a journey over time that are designed to encourage the formation of ideas and beliefs. You are always hungry for new ideas to express in order to call attention to your stories. You are more of a casual rather than formal historian, as your feelings influence which new idea and experiences you seek to explore, and your recollections can be subjective and selective. So your stories and what you teach us about life will come from your interpretation of the experience, tinged with emotional overtones to add colorful threads to the expanding tapestry of the world. So again, what I love is that, I worked at a bank for 10 years and we did not simulations, but we went over the robbery procedures constantly. And it is so funny to know that, at times we did do simulations. And it would be fun to interview everybody to see what their perspective was, because they're totally different. Some depending on how, really it was that emotional piece of this, right? Because the emotions come out in the 56. They're expressed here. And it was just so interesting to watch how this all played out and how everything would be different in the explanation of what the situation was. So the gate of stimulation and wonder, it's the stability through movement. The perpetuation of continuity through linking short-term activity. So again, what does the mental aspect do? It's bringing together all of these different sequences, and then it can, bring this continuity to the expression of it. So the right angle cross of laws, it's about establishing law and order in the world based on your own values. The juxtaposition of beliefs, you explore every conceivable form of belief and stimulation that life offers and that you can offer back. And then the left angle cross of distraction, you love being in the middle of experiences and in distraction. So now let's look at the movement through the lines. So at the very foundation, the 56 is about quality. So the practical sense that even short-term activities should be of value. Expression of practical ideas that have value. So the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits. The drive to stimulate that will express any ideas, no matter how trivial. So what is the quality of the ideas? What is the quality? Not every idea that bumps into me is of value for me to express. So if we look at the foundational line of the 11, it's about attunement. So attuning to the quality of the idea, of the stimulation, of the curiosity. Attuning to the quality. And then in the 56, we have linkage. So this isolated genius that will eventually find continuity through recognition and support. A genius for stimulating expression that will take time to mature and will need others to recognize. We know this about the second line. We know that it has this natural ability. However, second lines don't just push themselves on people. They need to be recognized. So they need to be recognized as someone who can stimulate, okay? So a superficiality which collapses under recognition is eventually forced to move on. A gift for communicating, but not enough depth. The alienation, this is the self-determined self-sufficiency. So a will and egoism that often proves overbearing and guarantees continued isolation. Here, this is the acceptable given the son's intrinsic vitality, the drive to control and be the focus of expression. Like, we have seen these people that alienate others. And alienation is a trial and error process, right? Because once self-sufficient, then it sounds as though we don't need the other. And we definitely do. We definitely do. Because without the other, there is nothing for the mind to measure. There's nothing for the mind to compare to. And then without that, there is the mind really isn't doing what it's designed to do, and it's here to measure and be our decoder. So expediency, the perfection of the superficial personality that can mask, when essential, its true feelings to secure protection. The gift for stimulation as a role and for protection. Now, isn't this interesting? Again, we're talking about protection, and protection really is a part of the logical stream, because the logic wants protection and security to move us into the future. So here it's like, how can I, get someone to see this idea? However, it also is a role, but there's also a protection in this expediency. Then the attracting attention. So the unusualness, innovation, and sometimes genius as guarantees of eventually attracting attention and support. Stimulation at its most innovative and unusual. So, it's the highest expression here is attracting attention. And this is something you guys are going to really grasp when we get into the abundance blueprint and understanding how to, attract resources into your lives for the betterment of all. So all too often, the tendency to attract attention that is self-defeating in its efforts or in its effects. The power of stimulation to provoke and disturb. And we see this as well, right? We can see how sometimes people are attracting attention, and it definitely provokes and disturbs the peace. Now, here we are. We're on the beach. We're looking out on the horizon, and we're staring out there. We know that something's out there, but there's caution here. And that exclamation point that the 56 brings. So the prudence, when linkage has been achieved, to honor its new commitments in order to secure its footing. Honesty in expression and living by one's word. So even though the 56 is a little bit of a storyteller, it can exaggerate. I know, I have it, so that does happen. Here, when it's looking out at the horizon, it's saying, we need honest expression. Let's use our honest expression and live by your own word. Because this 6th gate, if we look at the mandala and we're moving in the mandala, it's actually going to the 31. And the 31, which you're going to learn in the next set of circuitry, in the collective circuitry, is that the 31 is all about influence. So the 56 has stimulated ideas. It's been able to get people to, see an idea. And now it's cautious and moving into the influencing others and leading them into the future. So there's, as we, watch how this movement in the wheel and the movement around the mandala and the movement of the energy here, there's this mixing and mingling, right? We're in the abstract, and then, we're going to be touching that collective piece, that logical piece. So again, always touching something on either side to bring it all together into this holistic view. So the profound unconscious wanderer, where external yearning for acceptance will unconsciously release the exact energy that creates rejection. A difficult role where the self is unknown and not recognized with predictable results. Wandering throughout the life from one expression to the next, unable to find the stimulation that one could live by. And, when I look at this, I can recognize that this is probably, 98% of the population. Unconsciously walking through life, and it is difficult, right? It's difficult. Not knowing what's my purpose, why are we here, right? Again, the wanderer, the curiosity here in this line isn't about finding, it's about the search. And some of us are designed to, have more challenges, have more struggles than others. And that might be good, bad, right, wrong, however you want to look at it. The beautiful piece here is that we can begin to recognize how it isn't about the mind. It's not about the mind making decisions. It's about the movement of the body. And, on the horizon, we're still going to have people, and if this is a part of your design, the detriment of the 6th line of the 56th gate, that are unable to find the stimulation that they can live by. So there's this perpetual movement, which may not be bad either, because we need movement in the collective abstract circuitry. Okay, friends, we have just wrapped up the abstract circuitry. Now we are going to move on to the collective circuitry in the logical aspect, understanding, where we just finished up sensing. Sensing's all about the solar plex and having these feelings and having cycles and having waves and seeing life through that lens. If with that left eye, that's how we're all seeing life, because it's feeding that right side brain. So it's about watching this mechanical information in our abstract world show up. I don't want you to do anything about any of this information, but witness it. Witness it. Recognize how it shows up. All right, friends. Till next video.